Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have baby Navy right here and we are going to be telling you guys all about my labor and birth story with her. Before we get into the video, I did want to start by putting out a little disclaimer that there might be some things shared in this video that might be triggering to some people. The first one is drugs, the second one is a wrapped cord, and then the third one is baby stop breathing. So if any of those are going to be triggering to you, go ahead and click out of this video. I will not be offended. I just don't want to mention these things and not put a little warning beforehand. On Friday, February 11th at 11 a.m., I had my 38-week checkup. I went in there and everything was looking good. Her heart rate was sounding really good. And at 38 weeks, I usually opt to get the membrane sweep. And the reason I do this is because, if you're new here and don't know, I had a heavy 3rd-degree tear with my first son, and he was only 7 pounds, 3 ounces. And I ended up needing like 45 stitches. I couldn't walk for 3 weeks. My doctor and I just decided to do the sweep at 38 weeks, and it works literally every time. So going into that appointment, I knew that I was going to be getting the sweep. She said I was 3 centimeters dilated and I was 60% effaced. So she did my sweep at 11 a.m. and I went home totally anticipating it to work and to go into labor that night. So I ended up going home. We took the boys for a walk, a really nice long walk. I was drinking a ton of red raspberry leaf tea, and I was putting a ton of jasmine oil, essential oil, on my belly. About 3 o'clock, we came home from our walk. I started to feel some contractions, and I almost thought they were more like cramps, that's what they kind of felt like. I didn't actually think that they were contractions. Started to feel like they were coming on more frequently, so I got the contraction counter app, and I was just timing them to see are they cramps or are they actually contractions. They ended up being contractions. They were 4 to 5 minutes apart, lasting for a minute. They didn't hurt though. At 5 p.m. I decided, okay, I think this might actually happen tonight, so let's get our bags and everything put into the car just in case we end up needing to go in. I called the hospital at about 6 because I figured, well, this is my 3rd baby and this could progress pretty fast. I think I might be in labor, but I just wanted to call and double check with you guys and see what you think.
Okay, I'm just looking, so it looks like it'll be your 3rd baby, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you've been contracting?
Yes, I have been contracting for the last 3 hours. I had my membrane stripped earlier today.
Well, I think that if you've been feeling contractions, I think it doesn't hurt to come in and get checked out.
We live about 40 minutes away from the hospital, so we got to the hospital about 8 p.m. on Friday, the 11th. We ended up going through the admission process. I got dressed into the hospital gown and got the fetal heart rate monitor and the contraction monitor put on to my belly. And then about 9 o'clock, the nurse comes in and checks me and says that I'm at a 2. At my appointment that morning, the doctor said I was at a 3, and then the nurse says I was at a 2. So I don't actually know if I was at a 3 that morning or if I was really at a 3. When the nurse checked me, I don't know, because they just use their fingers. They don't actually take a ruler down there and but anyway, she's like, you're more at my kind of 2. So we're gonna have you just, bounce on the ball, take a walk, whatever, and I'll come back in at 11. So 2 hours later, she was gonna come back in and check me again to see if things were progressing, because they couldn't actually admit me if things weren't progressing. And the reason for that is, she said, because I was 38 weeks, I really had to prove that I was in active labor to get admitted. She leaves and I'm bouncing on the ball and walking around, and about 9:30 my contractions started to hurt so bad I couldn't hardly breathe through them. They were next level, and it happened literally within minutes. So I ended up calling her and I was like, okay, I need you to come check me because I don't know if I've progressed, but I'm starting to feel like I could really use some pain medication. She comes in and she lays me down, checks me, and I was at a 4. So she's like, yep, you're progressing. We're definitely keeping you. You're having a baby tonight. So at this point I said, I think I want my epidural. Like, I think we need to call the anesthesiologist and let him know that like I want it soon, because sometimes it takes like 45 minutes for them to get to you. So I told her like I wanted it, especially if things were progressing pretty fast. If you wait too long, sometimes you can't get it. So she let the anesthesiologist know that I wanted the epidural, and my pain was getting so bad, they offered me fentanyl. And I looked at her and I was like, because I don't know anything about drugs, you guys. Like, I have no idea what any of that is. And I looked at her and I was like, isn't that the drug that's like killing people? I just have heard so many bad things about it because I know that it's like going around right now. And she was like, yes, but this is like the legal stuff. And it lasts 30 minutes, it'll wear off, you know, before you even get your epidural. And I was like, okay, is that like something that like normally, like people normally get? Because I've never been offered that before. She's like, yeah. So I was like, okay, like whatever's gonna help this pain. So I ended up getting the fentanyl and it made me really, really dizzy. Like, I usually don't even take ibuprofen. So I was like, whoa, like this is crazy how much pain this took away. At about 10:15, I was still waiting for the anesthesiologist. The fentanyl was starting to wear off, so I was starting to get in like more and more pain. The doctor came in to check on me and just let me know that if I felt like things were progressing really fast and I needed to push, or I felt the pressure down there, to call her immediately, because since this was my third baby, they tend to come really, really fast. And my two boys, I literally only pushed for like maybe 7 minutes, a total of like 3 or 4 times, and maybe not even that much with Noah. Like, he came pretty quick. So she was like, let me know like as soon as you start to feel like, if you feel the need to push, you need to call me. At about 10:30, the anesthesiologist came in and was ready to give me my epidural. So I sat up, I, you know, was sitting on the bed getting ready for him to like insert the needle and like get it all put in. Oh my gosh, like just the thought of it makes me so like cringe. I was sitting on the bed, I was holding my husband's hand in one hand and then I was holding my nurse's hand in the other, and just between like the contractions hurting, having to sit super still through contractions, and just like the anxiety of getting the epidural. I don't know, something about knowing that big needle's going into my spine just makes me so freaked out. So I was just shaking uncontrollably, like so bad. I don't know, like I love the epidural once it's in, but getting it in freaks me out. So at about 11 p.m., my epidural was in and everything looked good. The anesthesiologist leaves, and around 11:15 p.m., the nurse decides to check me again to see where we're at, and I was at 8 centimeters. So I had literally gone from 2 to 8 in 2 hours. I have never dilated that fast, like that quickly before. She had said she probably wasn't even gonna put a catheter in, just because by the time I had the baby, it was only gonna be a couple of hours and I had just like peed. So she really didn't think that I was gonna need it. So she didn't give me a catheter, which was crazy because I've gotten a catheter every time. So at that point I was like, wow, this really is progressing fast. So then the doctor comes in and has the tech start getting everything set up and ready, because she knew that like I was at 8 centimeters, I could literally be at a 10 any minute. So they start getting everything set up for the doctor. Her, the nurse, the pediatric nurses, they kind of hang around in my room for like 30 minutes just to monitor me, because they really didn't know how fast I was gonna progress to a 10. And so they all kind of stayed in the room for about 30 minutes just watching me, like watching my pain, you know, seeing if I needed to push. At about 11:30, I felt this big gush and I knew that my water had broken. And once your water breaks, things tend to start going really fast. So my water broke, and then 15 minutes later at 11:45, my doctor checks me. She said I was still at an 8, so that meant that the epidural had kind of slowed things down a little bit, but since my water just broke, she expected things to, you know, start it back up again. So she was like, I'm gonna let you rest for a little bit. We're gonna leave you alone now, because they were in there for like 30 minutes just washing me. She's like, we're gonna leave you alone for a little bit, let you rest, but if you start feeling that pressure down there, call me immediately. Like, she just kept saying that, like she knew that this was gonna happen real fast. I was laying down in the bed and I was looking at the fetal heart rate monitor, and every time I had a contraction, I noticed that Navy's heart rate was dropping like really, really low, and it was freaking me out. There was no way I was gonna sleep through that. So I literally was just like laying in the bed staring at the monitors, just like, okay. And then it would go back up once my contraction was over. So I just kept watching it. I couldn't take my eyes off of it because I I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay with her. So I had been laying there for about 45 minutes. At 12:30, I started to feel the pressure, and I was just about to call my doctor, and she and the nurse and the pediatric nurses walk in, and they were like, how are you feeling? And I was like, well, I was actually just about to call you because I'm starting to feel some major pressure. She checks me, and she's like, yeah, you are at a 10. We could literally push any time now. And I asked her, like, did you notice that her heart rate was dropping and stuff? And they were like, yeah, we were watching her and your contractions on the big screen over there at their like nurse's station. And she's like, you know, we were watching it, and she was like, that happens, that's normal, it's nothing to be concerned about. So I was like, okay, good. But it was still weird because that had never happened. Like with Weston and Noah, their heart rate never dropped with contractions. So it was just weird, and I had like an uneasy feeling in my stomach. I pushed a total of 3 times, and when she came out, the first thing I heard the doctor say was, oh no. And let me tell you, that is the last thing that you want to hear your doctor say when your baby comes out. I just immediately was like, what's wrong? Like, is she okay? I looked down, and the doctor is literally unraveling her because she was tangled in my cord. The cord was wrapped around her 4 times. It was wrapped around her neck, it was wrapped around both of her arms, and it was wrapped around her body. So she came out like this because her cord was like wrapped, and then it was wrapped again. She was literally tangled. Like they were like having to like literally unravel my baby. She immediately started crying, which was great. Once she was unraveled, they put her on my chest, and she had stopped crying, and I was like, is she okay? Like, she's not crying. And they were like, well, she did cry, and she's perfectly healthy, she's okay. With her cord being wrapped around her, I just didn't know like if that had caused any damage or what. She was totally fine, and we ended up doing skin to skin for about 2 hours. My cord was about 2.5 feet long, and a normal umbilical cord is about 1 foot long. They have no idea why it was so long. They literally were like, the cord is just so long, we don't know why. But that explains why she was like literally tangled in my cord, because it was so long. Had they have known that the cord was wrapped around her, they probably would have opted for a C-section, but they didn't know. And I'm kind of glad, because I'm glad I got to deliver her vaginally. I'm also just very grateful and blessed that everything was okay. I ended up delivering her at 12:38 a.m. on Saturday, February 12th. While Navy and I are doing skin to skin, they deliver my placenta, and I actually saw it. I'd never seen my placenta before, and it was like really weird. So I delivered my placenta, and then she stitches me up, and thankfully I only needed 1 stitch. And especially because she came out like this, they were shocked that I didn't tear more. So I'm really grateful that I didn't have a worse tear. This was actually my easiest recovery. Each time I've had a baby, I've had less and less stitches. She put the straight catheter in, drained my bladder, so that way I was emptied until I could get up and go to the bathroom. So she ended up weighing 6 pounds, 1 ounce, and was 20 inches long. I was just like sitting in the bed watching TV. We were watching a show, and I was holding her just like this, and all of a sudden I could tell she was struggling to breathe. Like, she couldn't breathe. And newborns can't breathe out of their mouths, they can only breathe out of their nose. So if something's in their nose, they won't be able to breathe. She was struggling for so long, so I had freaked out, and I don't know if I was panicking or if I was just not pressing hard enough, or if it wasn't working, I don't know, but it wasn't going through. So I was like, Jamie, just go get a nurse, go get a nurse. So he sprints down to the nurse's station, and they sprint back, and I think at this point it's been a minute. She was literally blue. Like, she had started to turn a pale blue when Jamie left to go get a nurse, and she just couldn't breathe. So, like I said, he ran down to the nurse's station. They were running back, and she finally starts crying. And I have never felt such a panic, and I've never had such a scary moment in my life where, like, I was looking at my child and they were literally turning blue. It was honestly traumatizing, but she started crying. The nurse comes in and she's like, oh, she's okay, she's crying, that's a good thing. And I was like, but she literally just started crying. Like, she could not breathe for at least 30 seconds to a minute. And so she started crying, and then all of a sudden this clear fluid comes out of her nose. And I still to this day don't know if it was amniotic fluid. I don't know if it was spit up, like colostrum. I have no idea what it was, but it just, like, a ton of it came out of her nose. I ended up having to be there 2 nights, because the first night we went in, had her, and then we had to be there for her 24-hour tests. And since she was born literally in the middle of the night, we had to stay another night. So we couldn't leave until Sunday morning. And that was hard for me. I felt really emotional. I wanted to get back to my boys. I wanted to be in my own bed. I wanted to be at home. There's just nothing really to do in the hospital. So Jamie and I ended up watching like 4 or 5 movies that day, and we just were like so bored. We ended up getting home Sunday around 11. That night, I had just fed her and was getting her ready to be put down for bed. She stopped breathing again. I think this time she was choking on some spit up. I don't think that she had figured out how to like get it out or swallow it back down or what. So it happened again, but she didn't turn blue. I instantly freaked out. I just broke down crying. It was literally like the scariest thing because we were home. We weren't in a hospital. So if she ended up turning blue, we were gonna need to call 911. And she didn't turn blue. I picked her up, I started patting her back, like I was just trying to like get it out of her. And it came out of her nose again, but this time it was like a yellow from my breast milk. That has caused a lot of anxiety this time around for me. She doesn't do it so much anymore. She's almost 2 weeks old. She'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. She doesn't do it a ton anymore, but the first week and a half, she did it at least 1 to 2 times a day. And when we saw her pediatrician, she had showed me ways to help her get it out, but it's still really, really scary. She has not turned blue from doing it. Only in the hospital is the only time she turned blue. So her pediatrician said, if it happens but she doesn't turn blue, it's okay. But if it's happening and she's turning blue, we need to like get her checked out because it's not good that she's not able to breathe for that amount of time. So it was a hard first week. I have found that if she sleeps with her pacifier in her mouth and she spits up, she's able to swallow it back down. So I wake up probably every 20 to 30 minutes to make sure she still has her pacifier in her mouth, just because it makes me feel a little bit better. So if that happens while I'm sleeping, I feel more confident that she'll be able to swallow it down and won't stop breathing while I'm asleep. But let me tell you guys, the first week home, I didn't get any sleep. She hasn't done it in a couple of days, and if she does, she's getting a lot better at either spitting it out or swallowing it back down. But I'm glad that everything is starting to look better. All right, you guys, that is it for my labor and birth story. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked today's video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you aren't already, please hit that subscribe button down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.